Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming, and good morning. It's great to be here. Actually grew up, well, not grew up, but I did live in Edinburgh for a bit, so it's good to be back in the UK. So we're going to cover a little bit about UK laws currently, and then a little bit on US laws. Any US people in here, raise your hands. Okay, I'm going to touch on that very short then. How many of you guys are actually hackers yourself? Sweet. How many of you guys are program managers? Okay, this is great for me to know. So just a disclaimer, I am not an attorney at all. I was thinking about going to law school. I was looking at Cambridge, Oxford, and then I was like, no, you know what? I don't think law school is for me. So anything I give you is not advice at all. It's just me sharing a little bit of research. So I'm a security researcher advocate at BugCrowd. I co-founded Women in Security, WOSEC. We have chapters all over the world, and we're looking to build them out also in the UK. So any ladies in here who are interested, connect with me. I do mentor women to stay in InfoSec and also to get them trained on Burp Suite so they can start hacking themselves. I do speak on diversity and inclusion and bug bounty. And I'm a board member for nonprofits, creator of Women Hackers, the Slack. So ladies that are hackers, message me. I'll add you onto the Women's Slack channel. Drop Labels founder is a nonprofit. And most importantly, the one takeaway from this entire slide is this puppy right here. This is Sherlock. Sherlock is not happy in that photo, most likely because she's wearing a diaper. She is a Shiba Inu. If anyone knows what a Shiba Inu is like, it's a cat. It's literally a cat dog that acts like a fox sometimes. So let's touch a little bit on the current landscape in the UK. So one thing is, it's interesting, there has been a significant drop of cases. However, there's also has been evidence that shows that there was an increase by 1.7 million cyber-related crimes in the same period, which is very interesting. But I thought the one thing that I've noticed in the research is that the language that the UK has when it comes to talking about hackers, it's quite negative. It's already assuming that you are a bad person, which is probably not a good thing to say. But also, not just that, but in almost every written document, it always is using he and not she or they either. So it's already it's a very one-way street of looking at things. But the most important thing is that when you do switch it around by putting ethical hacking in front or security researcher, you get a little bit more positive, just a tad though. So, 1990, the Computer Misuse Act. How many of you guys are aware of this act? Yes! You read! That's fantastic! So it was introduced in 1990, of course, but it basically was a way to, anyone who's gained unauthorized access to a computer and encompassing unauthorized modification of computer files would be prosecuted. That means even hacking tools or exploits such as used by legitimate security hackers could also be considered illegal. But I think one of the most important things is this first line right here, unauthorized access to computer material. Did you know there's actually no solid definition of computer materials? So, except that they use this old text in 1968 that they still reference till today. So, that's one thing to note, is that they use something very old. Not just that, but the penalties are pretty clear-cut here, which I was actually surprised. You could go anywhere from 2 years to 14 years of being imprisoned. But just to note that there's also 3 different levels of doing so, and it can range penalties from £5,000 to unlimited. That's right, unlimited, people. That's a little scary. However, in 2015, the state police and intelligence personnel realized, oh wait, we're also obligated to follow this. So in 2015, they decided to make an addition change to it that allows them to not have to go by this act. But most importantly is that accidents happen. How many of you guys, when you're hacking or whatnot, you go things out of scope accidentally at times? Right? That's illegal. But apparently, it's also in here, it just shows that there is a tricky situation when you want to report a vulnerability that's very important. But the good news is that there are some landscape improvements. So in the UK, even though it comes off very negative towards hackers itself, you had the Data Protection Act 2018, which actually offers protection for those secure researchers that do it as their lifetime career, but also gives them kind of more of a right situation. However, once again, it's not always perfect either, so you have been warned. The other thing is that the NCSC, the great news is that they do participate in vulnerability disclosure and bug bounty programs. And they're very accurate when I dived in on what's in scope, what's out of scope, and the expectations and rewards that you can get. But the most important thing, I think, of all of this is the good communication. They actually will tell you that we'll get a hold of you within 90 days or whatnot. So that's pretty good. That's clear cut. But let's go into post-Brexit, okay? I know it's very scary and everything. Actually, I'm just kidding. I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that at all, okay? Good luck. But let me dive into some U.S. laws in case if you're doing any vulnerability disclosure and you're like on a U.S. company or whatnot. So the CFA, it was basically the same thing as you cannot access this computer without authorization or you will be prosecuted. Now, the interesting fact is this was created in 1984 after Ronald Reagan watched war games. That's right. So it was created. Fantastic president. So that's something to keep in mind. The DMCA, which is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, is a way that you do not have, quote unquote, the right to repair. So that's one thing to note is that you can be violating in many ways. So reverse engineering is seen as a breach of property to some companies as well. So that's another interesting fact. Last but not least, does anyone know when was the first bug bounty ever found or created? Anyone? 1995, Netscape. So, I mean, overall, we use secure researchers to find vulnerabilities for us, but also we use, you could also say hackers, whatever definition you want to use on that front, are always looking for vulnerabilities. And yes, program managers are very scared sometimes to be like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. I don't want to put my contact info there. I don't want a policy, terms and conditions, because that's setting me up to have a situation. But to be honest, they also know that it's necessary. So it's on both sides, from the security researcher side to program manager side. Everyone's kind of a bit scared. And I know this is a scary subject, so here's some pictures of some puppies. But don't worry. I did practice inclusion in this slide for cat lovers. Can anyone see the cat? There's a cat right there. So what do we need? Perhaps better sleep, better communication, standardized language. Oh yeah, we're getting into that point. Another Red Bull. But really, what do we need? We need standardized, easily readable language so everyone can be on the same page when it comes to communicating with each other. And that's also a good way how to start incorporating secure researchers to be able to do the good work that they do as everyday heroes. Also reducing ambiguity around potential conflicts between any existing terms and those specific to security research, and increase visibility for security research programs that include an explicit safe harbor status. Let's dive into Disclose.io. So Disclose.io is a project that is run by the hacking community and program managers. There's two parts of it that I'm going to touch on it shortly. But in case if I forget, I do have a bunch of these stickers. So if you guys want to help pass it on, I have a lot of stickers if you guys want some. So a quick summary of Disclose.io. The realization is that we need standardized disclosure language. And the reason for that is so we're all on the same page, especially since many of us around the world don't really use English as their first language. So this is an issue too. And how many of you guys actually read your terms and conditions if you have an iPhone? Yeah, exactly. So we need to make sure that it's a little bit shorter, right, than, hundreds of pages, but also that we can understand it. We don't need a lawyer to interpret what is going to happen, even though it's very ambiguous most of the time. So Disclose.io came about because companies want to start practicing safe harbor, but also we have a bilateral trust agreement with the hacking community. And it's broken down into two parts, like I mentioned earlier. There's the list, which I call my hacker list, of companies that practice safe harbor or partial safe harbor, and also basically terms and conditions that companies can adopt and bring it onto their own terms and conditions page that is simple and easy to read. So everyone's on the same page. And that's the most important thing, is that we need to work together as a community so everyone feels protected. But not just that, but everyone understands everything. So in this, everyone in this room, if you want to participate, there's an easy way how to do it. And I'll go into that a little bit close. But also, we're looking for people that are in the legal field. Any people in the legal field here? Yes. I like you back there. We should chat afterwards. Because believe it or not, we're going to try to bring Disclose.io to the UK as well. So I'm going to quickly go over what is safe harbor versus partial in case some people are aware of. Partial safe harbor are any companies that pretty much participate in any bug bounty or vulnerability disclosure platforms, such as BugCrowd, because they easily define the rewards, how to communicate with the person. How many of you guys have found a vulnerability and then you're looking everywhere to find the contact info? I mean, it is irritating. It's hours and it can be days, and then you kind of like, you know what, I just give up. So having that is going to be really important, and explicit permission to complete security researching any type of materials and whatnot. So that's really cool, partial safe harbor. But safe harbor as it is not just those three, but also has a disclosure policy. And it could be the ones that we list on Disclose.io, but also it's extending it. So then if you need to find these vulnerabilities, that you're allowed to do certain things, and it's applicable to federal laws, but also that knowing that you won't be prosecuted. And especially if you find something out of scope you didn't mean to, but it's actually very important to share, that you won't be prosecuted of that either. But also being specific on what is in scope is very important. So the requirements, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to participate as a company, you need to make sure to share your scope. What is in scope? What is out of scope? And be very specific. Rewards, what kind? Is it swag? Is it monetary? Official communication channels. So does that mean a Slack? Does that mean an email? Does that mean a Signal message? And what is your disclosure policy? So you need to have a link and share it with us. And the expectation is that you will extend the vulnerability research that's related to this policy. You'll work and remediate, discover vulnerabilities in a timely manner. That means, yes, if someone contacts you, please respond. They're just trying to do their job. I could read the rest of these, but I think you guys can read it for yourselves. Now, for hackers yourself, if you want to participate, you also have to agree on these following things. These are just some of them. But I want to just point out that last one right there. Please do not engage in extortion. You're not doing us a favor. Anytime you do that, you're making us look bad. So please don't do that. Be nice. And this is a safe harbor language that we usually share when it comes to the US, but because we are working on the UK, it's going to be different. It's going to incorporate your laws as well. We will have a Canadian one releasing in 2 weeks' time, so that's pretty exciting. So who wants to be on the A team? Because it takes all of us to continue this. This is a grassroots effort for all of us to come together. So there's two different ways. Safe harbor language. We are looking for people to give legal advice to us while we build out the UK. That's one. The other thing is that you can take this language yourselves and try to bring it to your own company to have a better idea of what is the next steps if you want to practice safe harbor. Also, everyone hacking, there's a list. So on Disclose.io, we have actually a GitHub. And this list basically shares what company, what is the policy URL, and also what kind of rewards to expect. What is, are you partial? Are you full? And most importantly, how do I reach you? So anyone who's ever curious about if I find something, how do I get a hold of them? Actually check out this list, because chances are you can actually find them here too as well. But any newbie hackers in here and you want to dive into what companies can I look for vulnerabilities for, I always say go for the safe harbor companies first. Any questions? Yes. Oh.
Very nice work for you done in the US, but and hopefully we come to the UK soon. But how does it work if I try to use this safe harbor when testing a US company with base in the UK? Which law does it apply? I know it sounds detailed, but does it apply US law, UK law? And do I need that disclosure in both countries to use it?
Yeah, so usually wherever the headquarters are, those are the laws that they get prosecuted in. But however, there's an exception to that. You can still be prosecuted regardless in your own country that you are hacking in. So you kind of have to know that it could be applied either way, unfortunately. Technically, yes. Or just go on make sure they have a vulnerability disclosure account on one of the platforms like Bugcrowd or whatnot, and if they have that listed, then that's really good. And then if anyone in this room, if you are in a situation where you do find a vulnerability that is out of scope and it's a very bad one and you need help with that, feel free to DM me and we can figure out a way how to approach the company, most likely. Any other questions?
Do you not find that even with a kind of program that there's still, when you disclose bugs, it's, well, you should disclose anything really, there's not really a right way to do it, like there's no kind of.
I kind of didn't hear you there, sorry.
Right, sorry. There's a bit of feedback there. So if you wanted to disclose something, do you not find that there's still companies who don't really play ball, for example? There's a lot of companies that still kind of view security researchers as, these big bad people, and they probably still don't want to get involved with them.
Yeah, so there are definitely companies that are like, I really don't want to put myself out there for doing vulnerability disclosure or a program or whatnot because I'm kind of scared of what will happen. Will I be flooded? Will I be attacked? Will they go out of scope to tell me these things? And these are all, these are all fears. But to be honest, most evidence has shown that by having one of those, you're actually making your company a lot safer. So, there's plenty of articles and research out there that you could always use to share with companies, and I definitely have those in my files, so if you ever need anything, just let me know.
If there's no more questions, then thank you very much to Chloe. Let's put a big hand together.